Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Wisdom in the Best Books and Films, where we find bite-sized nuggets of truth and use them to become better people. I'm Jake Bear, the host, and this week we are going to wrap up our science-themed couple of months here by going through Spencer Klavin's book, Light of the Mind, Light of the World, Illuminating Science Through Faith. This is a fairly recent book. I think it came out last year, but I read it this year and it was really good. I think it was a really good contrast. We've been doing a lot of things about how to use science to gain faith. This is talking about how science gets better if you look at it from a faith-based perspective. I also wanted to point out that I found out a couple weeks ago when I did the episode on Stephen Meyer's book, The Return of the God Hypothesis, that same day PragerU came out with a video on their show Theological, where Stephen Meyer went through in pretty good detail a lot of the findings of his book. So I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. Highly recommend you check that out, even if you don't want to go read the full book. That's a good summary of some of the points that are in there. And I thought it was a really good discussion. I quite like the theological guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he does great interviews. But this week we're going to be talking about Spencer Klavin's book, so I highly recommend that one as well, Light of the Mind, Light of the World, Illuminating Science Through Faith. If you get a chance, check that one out. It's a fairly short read. I want to say it on the audiobook was something like 7 or 8 hours, which isn't too bad. And I think it's a really interesting and neat perspective. As usual, if you enjoy the show, please leave a review on Apple or Spotify or Substack, wherever it is you listen to it. And share a link with friends. Please subscribe to the Substack. It helps other people to find the show more quickly if you subscribe on Substack, so please do that. This week's episode is titled Absolute Truth. Here it is. It's common for people to get confused when they first hear about Einstein's theory of relativity. They come away thinking Einstein proved that reality itself is relative, that there's no absolute truth, only perspectives. But I don't think Einstein would have appreciated that leap. He made clear that relativity applies to physics, not to ethics or broader questions of truth. At its core, relativity tells us something more limited and precise. The speed of light is constant for all observers, and the measurements of space and time aren't absolute. They depend on the relative motion of the observer. Here's a classic, if a bit silly, example. Imagine a ladder that is longer than a barn. If you move that ladder fast enough near the speed of light, one observer might see it fit entirely inside the barn for a moment, while another sees it sticking out both ends. Length itself appears to stretch or shrink depending on speed, but this doesn't mean length has no absolute truth. It means the absolute truth about length includes the variable of velocity. Saying relativity disproves absolute truth is like saying there's no absolute truth about water just because the same H2O molecule can be solid ice at low temperature or liquid at higher temperature. The properties change with conditions, but the underlying reality doesn't vanish into pure subjectivity. That brings us to a deeper point. While we shouldn't treat truth as purely subjective, Einstein's insight reminds us that the absolute truth isn't fully objective in the cold, detached way we sometimes imagine either. Real truth sits somewhere in between. In his book Light of the Mind, Light of the World, Illuminating Science Through Faith, Spencer Klavin explores this beautifully. Drawing on Owen Barfield, he shares how modern science often gives us only dashboard knowledge of the world. In Chapter 8, Klavin paraphrases Barfield this way, quote, "We are like a clever boy who knows nothing about the principle of internal combustion or the inside of an engine, but who has nevertheless learned to move the various knobs, switches, and levers about. We know how to drive the car, and for this reason we flatter ourselves that we know what the car is. But that's a fallacy. We have gained dashboard knowledge and have confused it for engine knowledge." End quote. Klavin continues the thought. The mechanical, purely mathematical way of viewing the universe eventually runs up against the inescapable fact that we, living, conscious human beings, are here. Our observations are always human observations. Facts and figures are real, but they don't float outside the soul that perceives them and computes them. The physical world isn't arbitrary. We can't wish it into being something else. Yet the facts of the world are also facts about how things appear to us. The light of the world meets the light of the mind. The world we experience is gathered together and shaped by human consciousness. It can't possibly be otherwise. Barfield's original analogy comes from his 1957 book, Saving the Appearances, A Study in Idolatry. What both Barfield and Clavin are driving at is this: the true inner workings of reality, the engine, involve both body and soul, matter and spirit. To truly master a car, you need more than just knowing how to press the gas pedal and turn the wheel. You need to understand the combustion, the transmission, the brakes, the deeper mechanisms that respond to your inputs. In the same way, if we want to truly understand the world, ourselves, nature, and life itself, we need both earthly knowledge, science, reason, observation, and spiritual knowledge, prayer, scripture, imagination, contemplation. When we combine them rightly, all true knowledge leads us closer to its ultimate source, God. We can't fully draw near to Him by relying on only one or the other. It takes both, body and soul, science and faith, working together. As Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, in John 17, verse 3, "And this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent." That's the heart of absolute truth, not a cold, impersonal set of facts, but a living relationship with the one who holds all things together. That is it for this week's episode of Wisdom in the Best Books and Films. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will share it and leave a review. We will be back next week, but we will no longer be on our science-focused topic. We will be moving back into some of the more classical literature, reading some things by Charles Dickens, both short stories and little thoughts from some of his longer novels. Hope you join us then. It should be a good time.